If you pick Wukong, this is what you're actually signing up for. And now Wukong doesn't ask much from you, but he gives consistency in return. If you think about playing Wukong in Warframe, there's something you should understand first. You're not picking a high skill Warframe, you're not picking a complex kit. You're picking consistency overall. And that's really where Wukong sits in the game. Not the flashiest frame, not the most technical, and not necessarily the strongest in every category, but one of the most reliable Warframes you can bring into almost any mission. He fits anywhere. So instead of talking about Wukong like he's a meta pick or a brain dead frame, this video is just talking about what to expect from Wukong. Because Wukong only feels good when you understand what he's actually designed to do and not what he's meant to do. When you play Wukong, you're essentially signing up for three things. First, you get a companion that does damage for you, whether you're actively focusing on it or not. Second, you get some of the safest movement in the entire game. Cloudwalker alone changes how fast you can traverse missions, recover from mistakes, or just disengage from bad situations. And third, you get forgiveness. Mistakes don't usually mean death on Wukong, they usually mean recovery, with his passive being able to revive you 3 times and give a buff when you do die. But that same design is also why people misunderstand him, because Wukong doesn't demand a lot of interaction, and in Warframe, that alone changes how people perceive him, especially because of past meta. In the past, people used to just activate Celestial Twin and let his Celestial Twin do literally all of the work. But now that's no longer possible. With your Celestial Twin not using incarnate forms or the bonus effect of galvanized mods or anything like that, and relying solely on ammo now instead of having infinite ammo like he did before, there is no more AFK farming with Wukong. There's now just playing him how he was always meant to be, a survivable comfort frame that is easy to play in any game mode. Whether you want to go into spy, survival, defense, anything you want, you can do. In spy, Cloud Walker is quite good. It can bypass lasers, it has fast movement speed, and it heals you. And on top of all that, you're safe from cameras and enemy sight. No need to explain anything about Celestial Twin. It's pretty obvious what it does. You get a companion, it primes enemies for you, deals damage. The damage is based off your weapons. Its health is based off the strength mods. It's pretty easy to understand. It's not worded in a way that's a bit difficult at all. If you wanted to talk about his fourth ability, it's just an exalted melee. Not a lot of people even use it. Most people would rather use Defy for armor, survivability, and just a little bit of forgiveness. Being able to cast it, gaining a brief invulnerability period, gaining more survivability with armor, dealing damage back to enemies. Now, Wukong is one of those Warframes that feels incredible at first, but whether you stick with him long term depends entirely on what you expect from him. Because the same things that make players pick Wukong are also the things that make some players eventually put him down. First, why some players choose Wukong. Low stress gameplay. You don't need perfect positioning, you don't need constant ability rotations, you don't need to micromanage your survival. Wukong smooths out any of the moment to moment pressure that a lot of other Warframes put on you, so there's pretty much no stress when playing him. The Celestial Twin value is also important. Regardless of how you build him, you always have extra help on the field. Something is always dealing damage while you move, or focus on your objective. This keeps enemy aggro off of you and is also incredibly important just for your own survival. Now, mobility in Cloudwalker is incredibly important. The ability alone changes how Wukong feels to play. Not only is it mobility, it's also recovery, safety, traversal with insane speed, and essentially it's just a disengage button. If you feel you're overwhelmed in the middle of playing, you can just hop out on Cloudwalker and then nice and easy, the enemies get stunned a little bit and you can safely traverse away to a different spot, while also healing yourself and your Celestial Twin. During this moment, it's important to note the Celestial Twin is still doing damage, never giving up the fight. And now, as I mentioned before, though it might be a weird way to say it, forgiveness. Wukong gives you multiple layers of survival, passive effects, damage mitigation tools, Cloud Walker resets. So instead of punishing mistakes harshly, Wukong just turns mistakes into recovery. That alone makes him extremely attractive for newer players or any player that just wants consistency in survival or low effort gameplay. Now, there's a bit of trade offs here. Low engagement loop is something that not everybody likes. In that case, Wukong is simply just not the frame for you. The clone can handle damage for you, Cloudwalker handles movement, and survival is mostly automatic. You don't really have to do much to focus on survival. So instead of actively solving problems, you're often just continuing forward, which is why he gets the AFK trademark. Then there's just that repetitive feeling. This is pretty much the case with any Warframe you get, but some feel it more than most with Wukong. Once you understand how he works, his gameplay loop doesn't really change at all. You're always doing the same cycle. Deploy the clone, move through the mission, use Cloudwalker when needed, repeat it. And for some people, consistency like that starts feeling less like comfort and efficiency and far more like just mind-numbing repetition. Another reason is actually quite big. He doesn't have any nuking capabilities. You can argue that his Defy is an infinitely scaling nuke. The more damage enemies do to you, the more you deal back to them. Now, this does work great in, I suppose, Endurance Steel Path, where they can do millions of damage to you in 1 second. But in normal Steel Path, chances are you'll be taking maybe 100k, 200k tops. That's not enough to kill normal Steel Path enemies with Defy. You need far more than that. So it's not a traditional nuke. And because of that, the power fantasy that people love about this game, it just isn't there like it is with other frames. So for people that end up dropping him, it's not that they outgrew him because he stopped working. He works just the same as always. The only problem is their expectations for the game changed along with the meta. If you're fine being a runner-gunner frame, Wukong is certainly a very valid option. But if you wanted to be a nuker frame, Wukong simply isn't it. And a lot of people that turned away from Wukong seem to have those sort of expectations, from what I've noticed. And with that being said, that is pretty much just about it. I feel the expectations for Wukong should be quite clear-cut and simple, without any added pressure about how he should feel. A lot of players like to tell you how Warframes should feel instead of how they actually are. That's probably something a lot of new players felt the moment they hop into any region chat, because a lot of people say you should be doing this amount of damage with this frame. The truth is, each and every frame has just a few key traits that they work on that players just expand on. For Wukong, it's survivability, comfort, and automation is how I've come to see it, with comfort and survivability working with Cloudwalker and Defy, and then automation with Celestial Twin. And with that being said, that is pretty much just about it. So tell me, is there anything that I missed, or do you love or hate Wukong? I'd love to hear about it down below in the comments, because I think Wukong is actually a very good frame. And with that being said, until next time.